What's on, ladies and gentlemen? My name's Ross, I like games, and today we need to take a little bit of a look at a ShineGreymon deck. You see, ShineGreymon has been one of those which has been doing really rather well since it came out, and we'll be getting it in Booster 1.5. But it turns out, over in Japan, with the new set out, it might be getting better and better and better. Or at the very least, remaining pretty gosh darned awesome. So with all that borne in mind, let's have a look at ShineGreymon. I should give a shout out to the lovely Ensan Gaming who made it easy to find this deck list, and Amity Kyoto for actually sharing the winning deck list. It won their local tournament of about 14 people there a couple of days ago. And remember, we don't have giant tournaments at the moment. There's a whole pandemic thing going on. And honestly, this looks like the kind of deck which we can all get a little bit excited about. And if you've only been playing in Booster 1.0, you probably haven't been loving yellow very much. It's alright, ladies and gentlemen. That's going to change. Now, we do have a mixture of Digitama here. There are two we are playing. Firstly, we are actually playing Uppermon, the yellow Uppermon. When you attack, if your security is 3 or less, you draw a card. Uppermon likes drawing cards, and yeah, fine, it's not ideal in the early game, because in the early game, blah, 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 nobody cares. The fact of the matter is, this is exactly the kind of thing that we should be getting a little bit excited about, because it's card draw, and we don't have a huge amount of card draw in the Digimon TCG. Now, outside of that, there is one other Digitama we play, and this one is actually played in the higher numbers. We are playing Koromon here. When you attack, if your security is 3 or less, one of your opponent's Digimon loses 1,000 power for the turn. So, once again here, we've got another if your security is 3 or less skill. Instead of drawing a card, you get to lower one of your opponent's Digimon's power. What happens if you've got 4 or more security? Well, you don't get the effects. But I suppose one way to look at it is, well, if I've got 4 or more security, the game's doing all right. I might be okay with this. They're the Digitama. Now, in terms of the level 3 here, we got some very cool ones we can have a play with. We have a full 4 copies of Patamon here. And I like Patamon. Patamon's kind of cool, so I'm all down with that. That is the one that came around in the starter deck. And if your opponent's Digimon is destroyed because its power was reduced to 0, you gain a memory. Bearing in mind we've already seen one card that can lower memory, and spoiler alert, we are most definitely going to see some more. As well as a Patamon here, we've got a full 4 copies of Salamon. And I'll be honest with you, it's not a particularly exciting Salamon. We've seen a few Salamon at this stage. This is just a Salamon that again came around in the starter deck. And it's a 2 cost to play normally, 0 cost to evolve. There's nothing particularly special about it. It's just cheap. And that's good enough. But if you don't like that Salamon, might I interest you in Salamon? A different Salamon, the one that actually came around a little bit later in BT3, and when you're attacking, one of your opponent's Digimon loses 1,000 power for the turn. Oh look, it is another skill that's lowering your opponent's power. Bearing in mind, if you've gone and evolved that from one of your Digitama, the Koromon, I want to say it's called, then all of a sudden that's 2 instances of lowering power by 1,000, and this is starting to build up rather quickly. We then do have a single copy here of Labramon. This is one I'm fairly fond of. When your opponent's Digimon is deleted by being dropped to 0 power, bearing in mind that is one of the things we're looking to do with this deck, you draw 1 card. Important to note that Labramon, and it is an inheritable skill, but it's not limited to once during your turn. So if you can do this to multiple Digimon, you can draw multiple cards, and that sounds kind of like an advantage to me. Now moving over into level 4s, we've got Pitamon, one of the new ones that came around in Great Legend, and it's one like we're seeing for all the colours at the moment. It's a 1 cost to Digivolve blocker, and that's why we play it. And these are looking like they're going to be pretty popular moving forward in a whole bunch of colours and decks because it's a one-cost to Digivolve blocker. It's a level 4. Yeah, sure, you got to pay 2 memory to attack. This isn't a Digimon you're attacking with. You Digivolve up for cheap, and then you block. Speaking of Digivolving up for cheap, you've got Tarumon here, apologies for the pronunciation, which is basically Pitamon that can't block. It's just a one-cost to Digivolve level 4. It's not a particularly good card, it's a vanilla card, it's not terribly exciting, but it's the only level 4 yellow card we've seen other than Pitamon, which will allow you to Digivolve for 1 memory, which is why it ends up seeing play here. Now we also, funnily enough, see 4 copies of Unimon here, and that is the other half of Pitamon. So we got Pitamon, who's your one-cost blocker, and then we got 4 copies of a one-cost Digimon, and 4 copies of a blocker. But this is going to give you 8 blockers in total in your deck, which means you're going to draw into them, hopefully fairly early, and it means that you're going to be able to block a lot of attacks during the game, which is frankly a pretty good thing indeed. We're playing 12 level 4s, and 8 of them have blocker. Now moving over into level 5, we do have 2 different Digimon in terms of card numbers, but we do not have different Digimon in terms of name. We are playing 4 copies of ShineGreymon and 4 copies of ShineGreymon. Now, we've got the yellow ShineGreymon here. When you Digivolve, you may play a yellow tamer from your hand without paying its cost. It doesn't get any when you play effects, which is sad, but you get to play a tamer for free. And bearing in mind, we're playing 4 cost tamers in this deck. Not all of them, but one of them at least. So, if you're paying free to Digivolve, but then playing a 4 cost card for 0 memory, that seems like a win to me. Oh, and on your turn, if you've got 3 or more yellow tamers, it has an inheritable skill that gives you security attack +1. And this, as we're going to see in a moment, is a very tamer-heavy deck. And ShineGreymon, of course, does help you to get them in, shall we say, a little bit more easily, which is cool. The other ShineGreymon is technically a red Digimon, but it can evolve from a yellow, and when in play is treated as a yellow Digimon, which means it can then Digivolve into a yellow. So, although it's technically a red Digimon, this is not some kind of hybrid deck. This is a yellow deck. And this is essentially a yellow Digimon. And it's got Digiburst 2, that is to say you can discard 2 Digivolution sources to use a skill. And you may play a red or yellow tamer with a play cost of 4 or less without paying from your hand. Now it's a level 5, so you're only ever going to use this once. Maximum you can have is a level 2, 3 and 4 under it. Even though it's Digiburst 2, you're not getting multiple uses. But that basically means you've got 8 ShineGreymon, each of which could end up giving you a tamer that you're playing for free. That seems pretty good to me. Shout out to the lovely folks over at digimoncard.dev. The translated cards that are not official scans, that's where some of them came from. Some of them also came from the Google Drive thing that we all use. I'm not entirely sure who to credit for that, but whoever makes the ones on the Google Drive, you guys rock. Now moving over into the level 6s, I've told you it's a ShineGreymon deck, and it is a ShineGreymon deck. We have got 4 copies of ShineGreymon here, because ShineGreymon is awesome. Also, I've totally been telling you about these tamers and how it's kind of a tamery deck. There's a very good reason for it. So ShineGreymon then, when you Digivolve, you rest each of your yellow tamers in play, and for each one rested, you lower one of your opponent's Digimon by 4,000 power. I.e., if you've got 3 tamers, you rest them all, and then you get to minus 4,000 power 3 times. Could be from 3 different Digimon, could just delete a 12,000 power, whatever. You can split it up as you like. Oh yeah, and on your turn, you get an extra 1,000 power for every tamer that you have. So if you can get 3 or 4 tamers in here, you Digivolve up and just start wrecking their board, and then you've got a really powerful Digimon. 11,000 is average for a level 6. But if you can boost yourself up to 13,000, 14,000 power, you are not going to be taken out by fellow level 6s, which means that once you hit the board, you are going to be very, very difficult to take down. Bearing in mind, ShineGreymon should be giving you security attack +1. If you've got 13,000 power because you've got 2 Tamers down, you would have to get exceedingly unlucky to hit a card in your security, or your opponent's security, that would actually delete you when performing a security check. There is actually one other level 6 that we do play here. There are a couple copies of ShineGreymon. Now, it's got 8,000 power as level 6, which is full-on pitiful. But when you Digivolve, one of your opponent's Digimon loses 8,000 power until the end of your turn. And then, of course, you combo that with Labramon to draw cards and Patamon to gain memory, and this can end up really building up quite quickly. It's not a great card outside of that, but it's a free cost to Digivolve level 6 that comes in and hopefully deletes one of your opponent's Digimon, either by itself or in concert with your other stuff you're doing. And that sounds alright to me. But wait, we've actually got a level 7 in here as well. Now, it is Chaosmon Valderon. There are 2 Chaosmon in BT4, but only one of them can Digivolve from yellow. And we got up to 14,000, which is huge. When you Digivolve, you activate the following effect twice. One of your opponent's Digimon gets minus 7,000 power for the turn, so it's 1,000 less that you're removing than ShineGreymon, but you're doing it twice. And then if you get deleted, you gain free memory, which sounds pretty good to me. Honestly, you're only playing 1 copy of the level 7 here. There is a decent chance you're just not going to draw it, and you're not going to end up having it, and that's sad. But it's kind of I like to think of it as a handy bonus. No, it's not going to come out every game and win you the game. It's not even going to come out every game. But on those games when it does hit the field, you are going to have a big advantage and you are going to feel pretty gosh darned good about yourself. Now, I've shown you all the Digimon here, and we've seen there are a couple of themes. One is lowering power, and one is Tamers. So we expect a bunch of yellow Tamers, and we get a bunch of yellow Tamers. We've actually got 10 in total, 3 different types. So we've got a full playset of TK Takaishi here. That is a 4-cost Tamer. At the start of your turn, if your memory is 2 or less, it becomes free. And when you play it, you look at your security cards, put a card into your hand, and if it's a yellow card, you recover 1. Remember, this isn't recovery, this is search, because you're ending up with the same number of security cards you had when you played the card, but you at least get to search your however many security cards are left, and that is awesome. Really, really worth bearing in mind here that this is a when played skill, so if you do it with ShineGreymon, that is going to be a bad thing. We have a playset of TAMERS that came around in BT4 here. If you have 3 or fewer security cards, all of your Digimon gain an extra 1,000 power. Yeah, I know, just like the Tamers, but what can I tell you? It works. And on your turn, when an opponent's Digimon is deleted by dropping to 0 power, you may suspend tie and gain a memory. And again, that is one of the things that this deck really aims to do, so that works out nicely. We've then got a couple copies of the other 3-cost Tamer, that is Kamiya. At the start of your turn, if your security is 3 or less, you gain a memory. So this really is one of those decks where you don't mind going down to 3 security. It's going to activate a whole bunch of your skills, and then hopefully at that stage you've got a bunch of blockers built up. You've had some time to build up into your bigger, more powerful Digimon. It is a deck which is kind of made to make a bit of a comeback, or at the very least is capable of making the comebacks. But you can see there that you're lowering power a lot. You're getting a lot of advantages when your security goes down to 3 or less. And with extra security attack and all these deleting Digimon, this is the kind of deck that when it gets going could absolutely crush. But I'd like to know what you think about it. I'd like to know how good you think ShineGreymon is, so let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at the Wossy. That's where we talk Digimon and a bunch of other card games. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCGradio, where you can support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all kinds of fun things. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching Wossy Plays.